Hi, I'm Matt Goms, and today we're talking about band choreography. The reason that we do band choreography, I think, nowadays is more for the fun, the competition, and the kind of the art form to it that it is. Band choreography, or I guess marching band in general, is an art form in itself. It's a way to put a visual representation of a certain piece of music onto a field using shapes and forms and dance and color, all kinds of different aspects to give you that visual representation of a piece of music. So not only are you hearing the music, you're able to see people actually putting that visually out on a football field, such as this one. We've got a field here. Normally during the year, in the fall season, which is usually when marching band happens, a lot of it, it's in coordination usually with football season. And right now it's springtime, and as you can see, there's no lines on this field. Normally on a football field they'd have lines on the field, and we'd be out here, and those lines we'll talk about a little bit later, but they actually help to determine where we're going to be on the field. Hi, my name is Matt Goms, and we're talking about band choreography and getting started. The first thing that I would probably do is I would say that you'd probably want to choose a theme for your show. Usually you have a beginning, middle, and an end, and what you're going to want is typically it's going to start with some sort of up-tempo, fast-paced tune that is going to lead you through to the middle of the show, and then in the middle of the show you're going to want to do something probably a little slower, like a ballad of some kind, and then of course end it with something a little more high-paced again. That's typically the three kind of things you want. You can have more songs in that if they're shorter, but that's typically the way that you'd want to start it out. But the first thing you want to do, though, is choose that theme. Decide what type of music is it going to be. Is it going to be some sort of Spanish theme, or is it going to be all jazz? And, if so, what tunes are you going to use? Okay, those are the first things you want to decide. Hi, my name is Matt Goms. Again, we're talking about marching band choreography. The first thing that you want to do is choose your theme. But once you have your theme and you are able to move on to the next step, that will be trying to write. If you're going to do it yourself, you can hire someone or not. But for writing your drill, you're going to probably want to get some sort of a program. Back in the old days, they used to do it by hand, and there's still a lot of people that probably do it by hand, where they had to graph out each person on a sheet of graph paper, and where they're going to be at given points along the way. How many counts does it take to get to each set? They had to do all of this by hand, and it took a long time. And now they have drill programs that you can get for your computer, which will help you to speed up that process. You can input a starting set and then say that you want them to move in a certain direction for 16 counts or whatever the counts may be, and it'll automatically do it for you, which helps quite a bit. And there's many different programs like that can help you with your drill, which is the second thing that you're going to want to do after you've chosen a theme. Hi, again, my name is Matt Goms, and I'm here talking about marching band and choreography. One of the first things that I usually like to teach students about once I've got them on the field is to teach them about their posture, how to stand, and those two things are pretty important, especially the posture. Posture is how they're going to carry themselves throughout the show, and what's going to make them look the difference between a really good band or a really bad band. Standing, I've got my trumpet here. I'm a trumpet player, so I'm going to use that as my example. When you're standing, you want to make sure that you can hold your trumpet in an upright position, making sure that your elbows have got this little bit of a triangle that happens right here. Holding it close to your chest, about a fist length apart, and the mouthpiece at about eye level. For any trumpet player, things like that, you can do this with just about any instrument, except maybe tubas and some of those larger instruments like that. But for the most part, this will work for majority of your instruments. Styles will be different no matter where you go, and depending on how you want them to stand. Usually the way that I start, the technique that I have learned from being with the Blue Devils is to keep your feet apart at about a 45-degree angle, which is more of a natural way to do it than to keep your feet together. They don't want to be standing with their feet apart like this. Okay, that's a little too relaxed and natural. Okay, standing at attention would mean that they would have their feet either together, which some people like to do. I like to do it with. The technique would be about a 45-degree angle. Make sure that your heels are together and that you're standing up straight. You want to try and get everything up straight so that your butt isn't sticking out, that it's in and not forward, so you're leaning back and sagging this way. Make sure that your back is straight. You want to think about a string from the top of your head, that somebody's pulling it up, and you're able to hold that and keep that good straight posture up. Put out your chest just a little bit to make you look like you're standing a little taller and a little straighter. Hi, my name is Matt Goms. Again, we're talking about marching band and choreography. We're discussing the basics of forward and backwards marching. Right now, what we want to talk about is backwards marching. Okay, we've already discussed forward. Back up is a lot different. Backwards, the idea behind backwards is to make sure that, again, your body, you start with the correct posture, standing up straight. I like to use the analogy of a pool. If you're standing or treading water in the side of a pool and you're holding on to the side of the pool, the next thing that you're going to want to do, if you're going to take off, is you want to push off of the pool and push away from it. Okay? So you're going to end up taking all your weight with me. First, you want to find a good balanced platform with your feet. Okay? You want to roll up onto the toes as high as you can go, and then roll back down just a little bit, just enough where my heels are going to be just above the grass form, where I could stand here like this all day long comfortably without actually being flat on my feet. Okay, now the pool analogy again, take your hands and you're going to want to push your weight back all at the same time, so that again we don't get any of the foot first, weight later, anything like that, or head first and then falling into the thing. You want to make sure that your weight all goes at the same time like this. Another thing that you want to remember when backwards marching, again, is knee and heel placement. Making sure that when you pick up the foot, that it actually drags across the top of the grass. It's going to skim across the top so that you're not picking up the leg and doing kind of this prancing pony thing going backwards, okay? Don't want to pick those knees up too high. Make sure they stay low to the ground and that you're pushing off of the front foot away. And you almost kind of want to extend the foot just a little bit so that your toe is pointing as you continue to move backwards away from the direction that you're going. My name is Matt Gomes, and we are talking about marching band choreography and marching in general. Right now I'm explaining a few of the basics that go along with that, what you would need to do if you were teaching this to students who were having trouble or struggling. The first thing that they want to learn is posture. We went over that. And now what we're going to go over is talking a little bit about balance. Balance is something that would be the next most important thing that they would need to learn, because before you even start moving, you need to make sure that you have a good balance. If I'm standing here and I try to lift one foot and I can't keep my balance on one foot either way, I'm going to have a hard time moving with a good, graceful pattern, forward, backward, sideways. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's going to be hard for you to do. So what I like to do is teach an exercise that you can do where you just lift your foot off the ground in about 4 counts and then back down, and then you lift the other one in 4, and you just count that off. Just have them practice trying to stand on one foot, moving their feet without leaning to the side or falling backwards. That would probably be the best way to start out, because once they've mastered this, they should be able to go on then to doing forward steps and backward steps. Hi, my name is Matt Gomes, and the next thing that I would like to talk about in marching band and choreography is to talk about how to dress a form. Dressing a form sometimes is easy. The easiest one that I could probably think of to start with is making sure that your spacing is correct. No matter what you do, if you are teaching your students how to dress a form, the spacing is one of the number one important things. The form can be anything that you want. No one's going to know what your drill looks like. No judge or no audience member is going to know what your drill looks like on paper. So even if the form is off, the only thing they're going to notice is spacing. If you've got two people on either side of you and you're standing too close to one of them, they're going to notice that there's a big hole and a gap in between them. So you want to make sure that you're in between, not too close to one side and not too close to the other. You're going to want to be directly in the middle and make sure the space is even on both sides, because that's what most people pick up right off the bat. The next thing is when you have a straight line. If I've got a row of people in front of me, you're going to want to make sure that the center of your nose and your sternum are lined up with the spine of the person in back. If you're off just slightly and you move to the side just a little bit, your sternum is not lined up with their spine, or your nose is not lined up with their spine, and you're just off just a little bit, you've now set a diagonal, so every person in the row behind you going back is going to be off just a little, and instead of now being a straight line down the thing, you've got a diagonal that's going more on an angle, and it changes the whole look of the form. So covering down is what we call it, and you want to make sure that you cover down, that you're covering down on their spine, and you can draw an imaginary line straight to your sternum and chest to their spine. The other thing that you want to make sure that you can do is not only covering down, but you're going to want to dress, what we call dress, which is from side to side on either side of you. You've got your spacing, you're covered down if you're in a straight line. If you're not in a straight line, it doesn't matter. If you've got a straight line going from side to side, you're going to want to make sure that you're dressed, meaning that your hip bones are lined up with the hip bones of the person in front of you. You don't want to line up by feet, because people have different size feet, and so you're not going to want to line up with their feet. You're going to want to more line up with the hip bones, or even possibly ankle bones. We like to use that sometimes if you're on a line, like those little bones that come out the side of your ankle. You can line those up if you're on a yard line. That helps too. If you are in an arc, there's a term that we like to call it. It's called focalizing, focalization. If the curve goes in towards where you are, towards the camera, and I am standing here, I'm going to want to face in. If I say focalize and I'm facing another direction, I'm going to want to turn in towards where the curve is to find my spacing and to take a look at it. And then I'll turn back and get a look, and then I've got a nice arc and I can see what that form actually looks like. This could be gone over a lot more in depth if you think about a geometry class. You think about looking into the center of the form. You want to find, if a circle is around, the center of the form is in the middle of that circle, and that's where you're going to want everybody to face in. It goes for arcs as well, and any kind of curvilinear form that you can think of. Hi, my name is Matt Goms, and I would like to talk about forward marching and the process of doing that, what the best technique to try and achieve from that is going to be. Once you've achieved your posture and you're ready and set, and you're ready to take your first step, what we want to do is to try and push all of the weight forward at the same time, so that your foot doesn't go and then your body goes, so that you get this delayed reaction that happens this way. Okay, so the first thing you want to think about is making sure you take all the weight forward at the same time, and as you take that step, that you're going to drive your heel into the ground, getting your toes in the air as high as you can get them without losing your balance. I should be able to hold this for quite a while. If you can see, my heel is in the ground and my back heel is actually off the ground, so I'm in motion, and I should be able to hold that. So that's the type of form that you want to achieve once you take that first step. You can have them do it slowly, where you move slow, one step at a time, making sure that you're rolling from your heel all the way to the ball of your foot. You can have them do it faster. The one thing that you do not want to do is make sure that the knee does not pick up and then the foot sets down. Your heel should skim right across the top of the grass as you take that step. So it should never be these bicycle steps that look like this. Hi, my name is Matt Goms. We're talking about marching band and choreography and how to put together a show and to make it look good. We have discussed marching basics, how to choose a show, the music, and all that stuff. What I'd like to discuss now is talking about the instrumentation, or the how each instrument should be placed on the field, where it should be placed, and those kinds of things. When you're designing a show, you want to try and make sure first that your instruments are grouped together. They want to be grouped together, so if you've got trumpets in one area, saxophones in another, tubas in one, drumline in another, you want to make sure that they are all in separate areas, and make sure they stay together as a section. The next thing to consider then is to consider your music and consider the melody of the music. If it's a very nice melody that's coming from the trumpets, you don't want to put the trumpets in the very back of the field where they can't be heard. You're going to want to put them up front and kind of feature whoever might have that melody, and that's just a general rule of thumb that's good to try and follow with those things. You can have groups or featured groups off to a side. It doesn't have to be front and center all the time, but that's just a general rule of thumb. And another one is a general rule of thumb, unless they're the feature, like a drum feature, you do not want to have the drum line up in the front, because then you will not be able to hear all the other instruments that are around. Woodwind instruments are also hard to hear, so you want to place them strategically so that they are more likely to be heard, maybe more towards the front or a little farther spread out, so that they become the color of the band instead of the feature. But those kinds of things are things that you're going to want to remember just in general to try and get a better sound from the music that's being done on the field. Hi, my name is Matt Goms. Again, we're talking about marching band choreography. We've been discussing the basics of marching and what you want to teach to the students or whoever it is that you may be teaching this to. Some of the basic things we talked about already are marching forward, marching backwards. What I want to discuss now is side to side, sliding, any variation thereon. Instrumentation is very important on how you hold your instrument. This, for instance, is a trumpet, and the trumpet is a very directional instrument, and wherever the front of this bell is facing is where the majority of the sound is going to go. So if the audience is where you are and I'm the performer, I don't want my instrument to be facing over here. It's going to have a very different sound if I'm marching this way than it is if I'm marching facing you, the audience. I'm going to want to rotate my shoulders so that my shoulders are parallel with that front line there, which we call the front side line. Okay? And then from my body, I go from there. I go, okay, my feet are going to want to be 30, 60, 90. You're going to want to rotate as much as possible at the top and just a little bit at the bottom. And then you're going to want to move your feet in that direction, keeping the bell of your instrument or the front of the instrument towards that sideline, so that the music and all the stuff that you're playing is going towards that direction. It can also be done going the other direction as well. And these are called forward slides because I'm moving and marching forward, but still on a slide, going sideways from side to side on the field. And that could be done at any angle. I could be moving on this angle towards the camera. I could be moving farther up towards this way or straight across. Once you've gotten past a certain point, you're going to have to switch and do what's called a backward slide, where you switch your feet and you're doing a backwards march, but you're still keeping that same focus point with your instrument, so that I could go any direction and my instrument never moves. Hi, my name is Matt Goms. Again, what we're going to do now is go ahead and take a look at a chart. Now that I've told you that you need to find a computer program, probably the easiest way to do this. What I'm going to do is show you now how you read the charts once you have that program and you start creating your own drill. When you look at these charts, see down here at the bottom, this is looking from the perspective of this bottom part of the page being the front to the back of the field. So if you're looking at a football field, and this would be the 50-yard line here, these little numbers give you the yard line numbers. Okay, we've got 50, 45, 40, 35, and so on down the line on both sides. Okay, you'd be the director or the drum major will be standing on the 50, usually right on the sideline. So now each one of these is one square or one step, and the easiest way to find where a person's spot is on the field is to count the squares. So if I'm looking for this person right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here at the bottom at probably one closest yard line, which is the easiest way for me to remember, and I'm going to count up and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then I'm going to go off of that yard line. I'm going to go 1, 2. So this person right here is 11 steps from the front sideline and 2 steps off of the 50. And again, you would want to count that off by pacing that off yourself using a 22.5-inch stride, which again we'll talk about later. Basically just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, and then count that up the yard line and mark off the spot of where the person would be standing. Hi, my name is Matt Goms. We're talking about marching band and choreography. The next little thing that I'd like to talk about is tempo, or how the forms move as well. The tempo is very important, making sure that everyone is moving together, that all of their feet, that they're all marching in time, and that everything is moving together so that you don't have people that fall out of the form and cause little rips or tears in the formation. You want to make sure everything moves together. Ideally, what you'd like to see happen is the way that you watch it on your computer, on the computer program, or the way that you would see something like on a screensaver. We've all seen the screensavers, where it's got the dot that moves around from corner to corner or moves. That's kind of what you want to see in a marching band formation, that one set moves and then it locks, and then it moves to another set and locks, and then it moves, and everybody needs to be moving together and making sure that they're taking all the counts to get there, that their feet are moving in time for the music, that they're in step. It's very important to be in step, because if they're not in step, then it's going to throw off other people. It's going to look really wrong, even though they might be moving their feet in tempo. If they're not on the correct foot, that's going to throw everything off and give a bad look to your show. Hi, my name is Matt Goms, and again, I'd like to talk about marching band and choreography. The last thing I'd like to cover now is talking about practice. What needs to be covered in practice? What needs to be done? Well, obviously in practice, what you want to focus on the most is the things that you don't do the best. A typical practice, though, for a marching band, what I would say that you'd want to start with is maybe start with a little bit of stretching, something like that, to make sure that you've got students or members who are not going to hurt themselves in anything. It's a very physical activity, and they need to make sure that they stay very stretched, and so they don't hurt any muscles or pull anything. It's very easy to roll an ankle or hurt something when you've got an uneven field or something like that. So I'd start with that. Start with some marching basics. Maybe move, everybody in a group, have them move in a block or something, just doing front and backwards marching, something like that to get their feet going. Then spread out into your drill and work on some drill cleaning, where they're not playing any of the music yet. They're just moving around in their drill by counts. In small sections, preferably. Start with small little groups of just 1 or 2 sets, and then towards the end start doing larger sets, like even whole productions, like whole songs, whole opener, whole middle piece, things like that. Then I would move to having them warm up as a group, as far as playing their instruments and warming up on their musical warm-ups. Then play through a few of the areas that you've worked on in your drill. Again, it doesn't have to be the whole show being covered in one practice. You're going to want to cover little pieces at a time and then put it together later on. After that, then go out on the field. Once they're warmed up and they've played through a few things, go out on the field and put it together. Now you've got marching and music, and probably you as the director are going to want to be up somewhere high, like in a stadium or in the stands somewhere, on a scaffolding, a ladder, anything you can get to get up high so you can watch the forms as they move and perhaps help them to make it better. And you'll want to continue on from there, just trying to clean it and perfect it as much as you can to make it look like it would if it was running itself on the computer program.